Hello, Rama Puput. Hope all are in good health, feeling great, wonderful, having a happy and peaceful life. Now let's continue with the next devotee, Professor N.R. Krishnamurthy Iyer. N.R. Krishnamurthy Iyer was a scientist who believed only in intellect and doubted everything else. Bhagavan enabled this doubting Thomas to experience inner felicity directly and tangibly. N.R. Krishnamurthy Iyer was a brilliant professor of physics. He had studied under Dr. C.V. Raman, the Nobel laureate of international repute, known as N.R.K. He would pick a fight with anyone who ignored the practicalities of life and focused only on God and the spiritual side. He had to have a scientific explanation for anything before accepting it. Though a Hindu, he felt that not only was it superstition to prostrate before anyone, it was also degrading oneself. In 1922, N.R.K. came to Tiruvannamalai to meet his sister, who stayed there. N.R.K.'s brother-in-law Kuppusamy and his friend T.K. Sundaresa Iyer, who were just leaving to see Bhagavan, told him, "We are both going to Ramana Maharishi. Krishnamurthy, you also come along with us." N.R.K. agreed, but on one condition. "Do not expect me to prostrate before the one whom you call the Maharishi." The friends smiled. They knew beyond doubt what would transpire. At that time, Ramana Ashramam was just a thatched shed built over the mother's samadhi. The three entered the thatched shed, and then something strange happened. Without even being aware of it, the professor found himself flat on the ground, prostrating before the Maharishi. The two friends smiled broadly when they witnessed this, because this was exactly what they had anticipated. For there is no need to persuade a skeptic to do something. Spiritual power itself is potent enough. Bhagavan was totally focusing on N.R.K. After a few minutes, N.R.K. got up, taken aback by what he had done. He then decided to have a debate with Bhagavan so that he could escape thinking of his spontaneous act. N.R.K. narrated to me what happened next. I asked Bhagavan, "Seated like this, what is your next state?" My idea was to elicit the reply that the soul survives the dissolution of the body and later gets united with the self or God. I wanted to have a verbal war with him in order to disapprove him. But it was not to be. Several minutes passed after I raised my question. There was no reply. There was absolute silence as our eyes interlocked in a steady gaze. A thought arose within me. Is this man taking shelter in silence to avoid answering an inconvenient question? At that very moment, Bhagavan's resounding voice rang out. "You said state. What do you mean by state?" This sudden counter question made me feel that I had to answer him. So I began to think. I did not ask him about the body that will be buried or burnt. What I was thinking about was the thinking apparatus inside the body called the mind. It is about this that I had asked. Now, if I said that the question was about the state of the mind, then he would ask me to define the mind. I had to have a ready answer to this question. Therefore, within myself, I raised the inquiry, and this, of course, was because of the power of his look. I could, however, find no answer to the question. My mind was paralyzed. The thinking power was dead. I became helplessly mute. I noticed the fierce glow in Bhagavan's eyes. They locked mine in a tight grip. Then a radiant smile of triumph spread over the Maharishi's face. I lost all awareness of both the mind and the world as the insignificant I in me was swallowed up in the pure awareness of being, in which all names, forms, time, and action were utterly lost. It was a state of immense silence, without a beginning or an end, but a glow with the self-effulgent I am. When I recovered consciousness of my body and its surroundings with the inner glow still effulgent, there were no more questions to be asked or answered. Reveling in the joy of that defeat, I quickly prostrated and ran out. That was the beginning of the end of the me. After having given the experience of spiritual explosion within myself, Bhagavan invited me. He said, "Come in and have lunch." It was just a thatched shed. So everything, darshan, food and sleep, took place there. N.R.K. continued, "Ganesan, I will tell you the secret behind the offering of food. To sustain the spiritual experience, Bhagavan always nourished the body, which had been so very strongly and deeply jolted with food. Many do not understand this. Let's continue in the next chapter. Thank you. Bye bye. Rama Rama Popoda.